My family's out of town for the week and I've decided to call shotgun. Hello food freaks and welcome to That's Rank. So, here on my channel, you'll usually see me trying out all kinds of bizarro junk foods and whatnot, but where my real passion lies is out on the grill. More often than not, when I'm not filming content for you, I'm actually seated somewhere near a hotbed of coals while a giant piece of meat is slowly roasting its way to tender summertime perfection. Now, I recently came across a recipe called shotgun shells, and that excited me because I've never made a barbecued pasta dish before, unless we count the disaster that was called Getty Spaghetti, which you can check out here on the channel, but the less said about that, the absolute better. Now, I'm admittedly a little bit skeptical about how this is gonna work out because we've gotta cook the noodles whole on the smoker, and I'm really wondering if they're gonna actually soften up under a blanket of hot meat juice. But for better or for worse, we're gonna see how this goes and we're gonna make this happen. So how this works, we're actually gonna be stuffing some noodle shells today, and I grabbed the biggest tubes that I could get my hands on in the pasta aisle, which was cannelloni. Maybe you prefer a thinner tube. Personally, give me the thickness. It gives me a lot more meat to nood ratio. I was gonna get some sausage for this recipe, but have you seen the price of sausage lately? It's downright criminal. They wanted like $8 a pound for some ground sausage, which is not happening on my watch. So I grabbed some ground pork instead, which is a lot more reasonably priced, and I'll just throw in some random spices and voila, you've got sausage. Now to mix into the sausage, I got this fancy looking cheese blend from Cracker Barrel, and it's expertly blended. You know, I appreciate how seriously they take the blending of their cheese and they don't leave it to amateurs. As well, this is not to be confused with the Cracker Barrel that y'all have in America. Our version just makes cheese and never comes with unlimited biscuits or that stupid peg game that no one likes, but we feel obligated to play every single time we sit down at one of their tables. And finally, I got some peppered bacon for this because while the recipe calls for bacon, I decided to amp it up just a little bit while we're gonna be grilling. These look like nice thick slices, which should do the trick for what we need theoretically. All right, so for starters, we're gonna get our meat blend together, and I've seen a few different ways that people prepare their shotgun shells. I think I'm just gonna mix the pork and the cheese together into one big sharp blended family. Some people prefer to slide a piece of cheese directly into the middle of the tube and then cover both sides with pork, but I think that I would rather have a much more even distribution with cheese and pork throughout. Maybe that's a mistake, but it'll be my mistake. But before we mix those together, let's get that pork all nice and seasoned up, and I'm gonna be mixing it with first a little bit of Cajun style seasoning from Kingsford. This is a really good blend for barbecue. It's got a few different things in there. It's got some paprika, it's got some smoky flavor, it's got some peppers. And then as well, I'm just gonna mix in some shoulder rub here that I've got from Spiceology. That should be lots. You don't want to overdo it. All right, and then just go to town with the mixing. You want to get really well in there and make sure that stuff is fairly evenly distributed. You want to bring your fingers right through that. You want to get in there. Do not be afraid. It's meat, it's not a relationship. Okay, so for the cheese, I figure I'm going to add about half the package. I want a really cheesy blend. You can mix whatever ratios into this that makes sense for you. For me, I'm just looking for equal parts pork, cheese, and heart disease. Okay, so we've got our pork all blended up, and now it's time to start stuffing the shells. And I've heard that this is a bit of a delicate process because the shells shatter easily. Delicate and I don't go hand in hand, so this should be something. And if you're wondering why I didn't show you actually mixing the meat with an above shot, it's because I forgot to hit record. All right, let's see how this is done. This is not going to go well. It might go better than I thought. So far, so good. I don't know if I want to push it all the way in on one side or start on the other. My fear with starting on this second side is that maybe it'll have air in the middle that, oh well, we'll give it a shot and see what happens. I'm definitely feeling a little bit of air compression in the middle, but you can push through that, so it is working. I don't know how many shells this is gonna make. My guess is about 12, but we'll see. If it makes more, makes less. Well, it can't make more. I've only got 12 strips of bacon. Don't worry about the meat getting on the exterior of the shells. You're gonna have raw bacon on there as well. Everything will cook down in the smoker. All the germs will come off. You're not getting sick from this. Unless you undercook it, of course, and that's on you. Okay, so we've got these guys all stuffed up now, and somehow I managed to get through this without breaking a single shell. I have just enough meat left over to probably make a 13th one, but there's no need because I've only got a dozen slices of bacon, so we'll stop there. Is what it is. And now for this next step, what we're gonna wanna do is wrap the bacon around the noodle. And the reason that we are doing this is the combination of the bacon fat along with that sausage should be enough to soften this noodle up in full. We don't want that because otherwise it would be like eating ramen on the playground. Which, as I've talked about before, admittedly sounds kind of awesome, but that's not what we're looking for today. Today we're looking for soft noodles. One downside of this is you can't use toothpicks to keep it in place because of course you're not going to get a toothpick through a rock hard noodle, but what you are relying on is the stickiness from the bacon fat to keep this in place. And so far it does in fact seem to be doing that. What I'm hoping is that for any little tiny exposed parts on any of these noodles is that the sausage and cheese on the inside provides enough moisture to soften it up so we don't wind up with anything al dente or worse. And you can see from these tubes where they got their name shotgun shells because that's roughly the size of what a shell would look like before it discharges the stuff on the inside. I don't actually know how shotguns work. I've never owned one, never fired one, no interest. I'm not a hunter, I just eat what hunters bring me. Okay, so there we go. We've got our shells all nice wrapped in bacon. I'm gonna lay these out on a wire rack on the smoker, but we gotta head outside to get that done, so I will be right back with you momentarily. Okay, so now we are out here at the smoker and I have it going in and around 250 degrees, which is exactly where we want it to be. I've also got some apple wood in there that has been smoking up. Apple wood is a good wood to be using when you're smoking pork because it's a fruit wood. You don't want to use anything super strong like a mesquite or anything like that with pork. Pork requires nice, gentle fruit wood smoke, so that's the way to go. I am gonna lay these out. Hopefully have enough room to do so. I may need to get these in 6 in a row. There we go. Leaving these evenly distributed. Gorgeous. And they are gonna sit here under this blanket of smoke for probably about an hour or so. I figure that's when I'll come back and check in. What we wanna see when we come back is that the bacon is tightened up around it like a blanket that's giving it a hug. We wanna be able to push it down and see if those noodles have softened up any. Of course, we want the filling to have been cooked all the way through. So we'll check back in 60 minutes time, see how they're doing. Be right back with you. All right, guys, it's been about an hour and 5 minutes since we put them on the smoker. I think it's time to take a look and see how they are doing. Oh my goodness, would you look at that. The bacon has rendered down perfectly, and let's give this a touch. It does feel like the noodle is bendy. Oh my goodness, it's doing what it's supposed to do. I am flabbergasted right now. You will see in the background that I did throw a little bit of asparagus on the grill as well. I think it's good to have some veggies with your piles of meat that you're gonna have at supper time. Now, for the sauce, which is the final step that we are going to take, I got some Carolina Red stuff. This is from Wegmans in the US. It is one of my favorite sauces on the entire planet. The reason being is because it's actually quite a thin sauce. It's not as thick as some of the other ones, so you don't get big, thick, heavy coats on the meat. You can see that right there. Like, it's just brushing over really easily, and it's because it's so vinegar heavy, so it's going to add a really nice tang to the back end of these shotgun shells. So I'm just going to paint these over, flip them over, do the other side. I am so stoked, so excited for this recipe. I genuinely wasn't sure if this was just one of those tricks that YouTubers are pulling, that maybe the noodles wouldn't actually cook, but no, it does seem to be doing what it's supposed to be doing. Fire's kicking up a little bit there. Not to worry, it'll die down as soon as I close the lid. But I did move the bottom shells away from the flame over here. Okay, so I figure all told, those will probably need about another 10 to 15 minutes total. It's just to get the sauce to tack up a little bit on the shells themselves. Then we'll bring them inside, we'll let them rest, we'll let the asparagus cool down just a little bit so it's easy to eat, and then it's supper time. All right, I'm pretty sure we're at the end of the road now. Let's take a look to see where we're at. And yeah, taking a look at those are done. Let's go ahead and get those off the grill and on to a plate. Gonna bring these inside. Let them cool down for a few minutes. Barbecue shotgun shells. I think our asparagus is done too. Yep, that's cooked through. I'll cut right through the noodles with absolutely no problem. So that's worry number one that's been completely alleviated. Sausage looks to be cooked. You've got the bacon that's fully cooked on the outside. I can't imagine this not being good, but we'll see. Wow. That's heavenly, guys. You could cook this in the oven if you don't have access to a smoker. What the beauty of the smoker really is, though, is that enhanced amount of flavor that gets on there. The little bit of wood smoke that covers this, think of it like beef jerky. If you've eaten beef jerky, you know the difference between the type that's been smoked and the type that's got like sort of liquid seasoning on it. You can't compare to the real deal. No crunch to that noodle at all. It's cooked right through. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and finish this up, and it looks like I've got leftovers for days, and honestly, who's complaining? It's not so bad being a bachelor this week with the family away. Thank you, as always, for liking, commenting, and subscribing, and I'll go ahead and catch you all in the next one. Ciao for now.